Voilà, je crois qu'on est en direct. Alors, bienvenue à vous toutes, à vous tous pour cette troisième journée donc, du sommet en ligne Chevaux médiateurs, Chevaux guérisseurs. Donc, journée du 16 décembre, c'est une journée qui est dédiée à des approches plus globales, plus holistiques et aussi plus traditionnelles du cheval. Et donc aujourd'hui, ce 16 décembre, nous avons entendu en début d'après-midi Julie qui nous a parlé du cheval dans la médecine tibétaine, avec d'ailleurs beaucoup de points communs avec les cultures du cheval des Amérindiens, que ce soit les Navajos ou les Lakota. Et ensuite à 16h, Carmen nous a parlé depuis l'Ontario au Canada, de son travail vraiment extraordinaire avec les services d'urgence et les policiers qui font des interventions spéciales et comment, là aussi, le cheval peut apporter de la présence et de la conscience. Et donc, ce soir, à 20h, mon ami Tara Coyote va parler, témoigner de son combat victorieux contre le cancer, avec des approches alternatives et aussi avec le pouvoir guérisseur du cheval. Et Tara va également nous présenter le livre qu'elle a écrit pendant cette expérience assez incroyable qu'elle a vécue. Mais pour le moment, nous allons parler un petit peu du cheval et des Indiens. Et évidemment, le cheval et les Indiens, c'est tout un stéréotype. Et on a tous été nourris, je crois, par les images des westerns, de John Wayne. Et depuis les années 70, c'est vrai qu'il y a une image un peu plus positive des Indiens, de leurs approches des chevaux. Alors, ça fait une dizaine d'années que je suis en contact avec les cultures amérindiennes, avec plusieurs nations amérindiennes, que ce soit dans le sud-ouest des États-Unis, la nation Navajo que je connais un peu plus, les tribus Apaches, et aussi plus récemment avec la culture Lakota. Et donc j'ai découvert en discutant, en travaillant avec beaucoup de partenaires amérindiens qui sont aussi devenus des amis, que ce que l'on appelle l'équitation éthologique, et donc une équitation qui a été popularisée par exemple par Pat Parelli, en réalité c'est une équitation qui vient en droite ligne des Amérindiens. Et la connexion des Amérindiens avec leur cheval, c'est quelque chose qui est bien connu, qui est devenu un peu proverbial. Mais il me semble que ça reste assez superficiel et je voulais vraiment aller plus dans la profondeur pendant ce sommet en ligne. Et je crois qu'il y a vraiment quelque chose de commun à toutes ces cultures traditionnelles chez les Amérindiens, entre autres, c'est que tout ce qui vit autour de nous fait partie de notre famille. Alors bien sûr, nos parents, nos enfants, nos cousins, mais aussi les chevaux, les animaux autour de nous, et même les éléments qui se trouvent autour de nous. Et c'est vraiment une notion qui est en commun avec toutes les cultures qui sont encore en contact avec les animaux, les cultures nomades. Et par exemple, cet après-midi, Julie nous a parlé des traditions du cheval dans la médecine tibétaine. Et pour les cultures amérindiennes, il y a vraiment cet équilibre avec tout ce qui nous entoure dans le grand cercle de la vie. Parce que c'est la réalité. S'il n'y avait pas la terre qui nous nourrit, l'air que nous respirons, l'eau dont nous avons besoin tous les jours, on pourrait tout simplement pas du tout vivre. Alors le cheval, il a toujours été présent avec les humains, pratiquement toutes les cultures amérindiennes. Et Yvette Collin le dit pour les anciens sur la Nation Lakota, sans leur cheval, les Lakota ne sont qu'une moitié d'êtres humains. Alors pour moi, c'était vraiment important de représenter ces approches traditionnelles du cheval pendant cette troisième journée de séminaire, et en particulier les approches amérindiennes que je connais peut-être un petit peu plus. Et donc j'ai rencontré Yvette et de manière un peu extraordinaire, Et ça faisait des années en fait que je cherchais à contacter Yvette, qui est bien connue pour son engagement pour le peuple cheval, la nation cheval. Et en fait, j'ai rencontré Yvette en France, à Paris, où en fait elle est en France pour un travail de recherche sur les ancêtres chevaux pour une période de 2 ans à peu près. Et elle en parle un peu dans son interview. Et donc on a échangé avec Yvette, qui a dû se rendre chez elle sur la nation Lakota, dans les Black Hills. C'est dans le Dakota du Nord aux États-Unis. Et c'est vraiment une très bonne chose d'entendre son témoignage depuis ces terres traditionnelles, ces lieux sacrés de la tradition Lakota. Mais on a fait des essais sur le plan technique et la connexion était un petit peu instable. Donc on a décidé d'enregistrer son interview, donc qui va être diffusée en direct ici sur YouTube. Et donc je voulais aussi vous dire sur le plan technique que vous avez accès à une vidéo en haute définition et surtout avec des sous-titres en français sur le lien YouTube qui est en dessous et qui va aussi être dans les commentaires de cette vidéo. Et voilà, c'est quelque chose de vraiment important pour Yvette, pour cette communauté des anciens Lakota, qui nous fait ce cadeau d'une interview pratiquement en direct et qui me demande que ce témoignage soit retransmis tel quel, sans être modifié, et c'est ce que je vais faire. Je crois vraiment que le pouvoir guérisseur du cheval, il est amplifié s'il y a des espaces où ce ne sont pas les chevaux qui viennent vers nous, qui viennent dans notre monde, mais si c'est nous qui allons dans leur monde, dans leur univers. Et ben, c'est ce que nous allons essayer de faire maintenant par la projection de cette interview de Yvette.
Tashunke Iankewi Imajiap. Miwakanti Oshpaeta Wa'u. My name is Yvette Running Horse Collin, and I'm an enrolled member of the Oglala Sioux tribe, and I'm here speaking to you from one of our most special sacred places. And so welcome to our homelands and our territory. So I want to acknowledge and thank Sylvain for inviting me to speak with you guys today and to share a little bit about our understanding and perspective about the horse. For us, it's Sundwakan. I've been really impressed with Sylvain's dedication to learning about the horse and supporting a healthy place for horses now and in the future. And I really love this webinar format, which is free, right? Free for everybody who wants to be here and share this knowledge and learn. So Sylvain, thank you for the invitation, and thank you to each of you for sharing your mind today and listening to what I have to say. So I'll just start from a good place for us. So we've always had the horse. The Lakota have always had the horse, and not every native nation in North America states that, but many do. Many have that in their history. So both Western science and Native history and science agree that the horse originated in the Americas. And from there, it spread out to the rest of the world. And as my grandfather says, the horse originated with us, Sundwakan originated with us, and from their creator decided to gift it to the world. So I think that's probably the correct perspective. And as my mother says, the horse is incredibly patient, and Lakota are patient, and we learned our patience from Sundwakan, from the Horse Nation. And so if you look around the world, you can see people's value systems and reflected in their relationship with the horse. It's difficult for us to read people's ideas about our relationship with the horse because naturally they're filtering that through their own perspective, their own cultural framework, and it doesn't fit ours. So for us, Sundwakan had its own nationhood status, right? The horse had its own nation. We're not over the horse. We strove to become one with them and enter their world. And for many of you who work with horses every day, I know you've probably experienced this. At least it's very clear to me, but again, I have a different paradigm that I'm coming from. So what I see is people putting the horse in their own framework, their own system, right? They put the horse in an environment that's comfortable for them, meaning the people, but it's not consistent with the nature of the horse. And honestly, it hurts. It hurts me to see that, because I know there's so much more to that relationship. There's so much more available, but you got to take a risk. You got to risk going into Sundwakan's world if you want to understand truly what we can do together. Now, if you're frightened of the horse, then putting it within your framework could be helpful, right? And that you're not as frightened at that moment, and so you guys can work a little more fluidly together. But for lifelong learners, for those of you who understand there's no such thing as a horse expert, well, at that point, you, in order to really grow, you go into their world. And that world is one of the most beautiful worlds I've experienced. And in order to do that, you can't control Sundwakan. You can't, just because you understand how to work psychology, you can't, you have to be brave enough not to apply those techniques, right? So Sundwakan is a herd creature, right? It must love. It must love to live. And therefore it will bond. And horse trainers know that, right? They put it in small spaces, they put them alone, they put them in stalls, they do all this, and that might make them comfortable, but it's not consistent with Sundwakan's nature, right? So we understood that, and I will acknowledge that the Lakota way with the horse is probably one of the hardest ways, right? It's character and merit based. You know, you're coming to that creature, that sacred creature, and saying, feel me, because I'm going to feel you. Do you want to share this experience with me, right? So our training with them was, again, for me, incredibly powerful and beautiful, but, you know, we didn't manage Sundwakan with fences or corrals, or can you imagine? I mean, they have to really just want to be with you, even when they have a chance to go with their herd and their family. That's incredible. And the power when they choose to accept you like that, it's indescribable. I don't have words for it. But within that realm that we go to together like that, anything's possible. And, you know, today everybody's talking about equine therapy, which I'm really happy to hear, because at least it's not the other stuff, you know, where we use force and control and really like a psychological warfare, you know, to control the mind. You know, what we've done with the horse in war, we meaning the greater we, just not something to be proud of, you know. Now, if it's for a very important reason, you know, our people did have to go to battle with Sundwakan. Your prayers are laid ahead of time, right? It's to protect life. I mean, we've had that experience, but just to go out and conquer, it's not our way, and certainly not to be done like that with Sundwakan. It's for us, not a good fit. So, but if you look around the world, that's often what mankind's relationship with the horse is sort of celebrated in that vein. Again, there's so much more. So, if you look at some of the old history books that are written about our people, which, for the record, most are wrong. Most are incorrect. So right now, I have a wonderful group of elders and knowledge bearers and teachers, and they've decided it's time for narrative correction. So I'm really happy that this is the time for that, and I'm honored to be a part of that. So I've had the wonderful opportunity to be living in Europe for the past couple of years. I've been in France, and I've had wonderful colleagues and been able to experience working with the horse on an ancient genomics level, which is another way to experience that relationship. I've enjoyed it very much, and I've enjoyed having the opportunity to bring my understanding and knowledge base and experience into that work. So, and over the past couple of years, I've listened very closely to many European people who love the horse talk about their relationship with it, their perspective, their framework. And so I want to thank each of them for that, but also I'm happy to be speaking to you from that place. So at least I've put some time and energy into understanding some of your perspective and your way. In our culture, that's really important. We don't speak about things we don't know about, because then we're just running at the mouth, and really you shouldn't listen to what we're saying because these are just their theories and ideas. So I just want to say I have put that time into learning, and I look forward to learning more. So one of the differences, at least I would say, for the last probably 2,000 years or so, I don't know. I know for the last 2,000 years in European history, things have been incredibly difficult. For us, we did not have the concept of open warfare. We did not have that. And we also didn't have the type of religious persecution that was experienced in Europe. And so I have a lot of compassion toward that, and our hearts go out to you for that. Our experience in the Americas was very different. So colonialism is pretty recent for us, and this sort of one-way religion aspect is very different for us as well. We never argued about that. We don't argue about the sacred. We respect people's unique experiences with the sacred. It's right. Creator's so vast, to think that one person's mind could hold it all with, well, it's kind of arrogant, I guess. So, anyway, one of the elders that I learned from once said to me, I can't remember the question I asked, but his answer was very beautiful, and he said, my girl, he said, you actually can't have a Lakota without the horse. Take the horse away and we'd be a half of a whole. And I thought that was very well put, which is this idea that we didn't have the horse before Columbus came and brought that creature from Spain. It's just very strange. We have to read that in the books. Our kids have to read that as well, and it's just one of those things we just have to roll our eyes about. We don't know why they say those things, but it's not what we understand to be true. It's not our experience. So in that regard, let's talk about what it means to be, a whole with the horse. So we didn't have spaces without them. Like I mentioned earlier, we didn't have fences. We didn't use corrals. We had no need for that. And, autonomy, personal autonomy, it's a really important thing in our Lakota traditional structure. and that extends to other life forms. So if you want a relationship with Sundwakan, you provide the right space, period. So by the time that colonialism came to us, and by the time historians from the other part of the world started recording us, we had gotten to a point where the pushing was too much. We had to turn around and say no more, because the life that we were responsible for and are responsible for managing now as Lakota was in danger. So Sundwakan needs certain things to function optimally, right? Just like we all do. And part of our responsibility to the Horse Nation, right, if we're allies with them and they're allies with us, our part of our responsibility was to ensure that they had everything that they needed to live optimally with and around us. And so in order to understand that, you have to spend that time with them and observe them, feel them in their happy place, in their environment. And that's something that I don't know many people who do today, right? We have them in stalls and corrals and small spaces because we also put ourselves in those spaces, right? And again, that's not how we did it. And it's how people in America make us live now, but we don't like it. And honestly, we don't want it, and we don't accept it. So we don't want that for the horse either. So that wasn't our way. But if you look at today how we work with the horse, right? It's rarely in an open, free way like that, where the horse has its herd and its family. And even in a herd dynamic, they geld their stallions, right? I mean, if we really look at it, we are changing them to fit the world that we've created today, which isn't working for us either, by the way. So I know it's not working for you, because I've been in Europe and it's not fitting either. Okay, so one of the reasons, right, if you love another creature that much, what's good for them is good for you, right? But so if you shift to go into their world, even though that's not your intent, right? If you're loving selflessly and you're really trying to connect that way, you're going to benefit as well. So I know not all of us are the government, and we all have rules, and we all live under that. I'm just going to speak freely with you, though. So there is another way. Whether we can attain that overnight or not, right? It's not for me to say, but it's okay to have that as a goal. It's okay to wonder what that would be like, and maybe a group can get together and try to provide that. That's what we're going to do here. We're done. We're done with this, because you can't alter a creature like that and change its environment in a way that doesn't suit it and then say, show us your medicine. Come on, heal us. It's not, what do you expect? Right? So I just want to put that out there, because sometimes we don't know we're allowed to think like that. Sometimes we don't know we're allowed to put that into our prayer and ask for something like that to open up. But, again, equine therapy, that's great. It's wonderful to understand that putting human with horse has benefit. But I'm telling you, it's like you're handcuffing the horse. I mean, it could do so much more with us. But in order to do it, we have to shift the way it's done. So it's important to understand that most of what you read about, at least our history as Lakota, the history of other Native peoples, most of that has been captured and recorded by people that are not us, and they're utilizing records that were created at a very political and quite dangerous time for us from a Eurocentric perspective. And so any information that is recorded in there overall is recorded from a place where the pushing had become too great for us to bear. Why? Because the Lakota, as well as many other native nations, were responsible for caretaking life and managing life. When the settlers and the colonists came, wow, you can see their recordings. It's so beautiful, like a park. Where do you think that came from? Come on. That's us. You're looking at our love and attention and knowledge reflected in the health of the earth. So that's really important to understand. And so our relationship with life around us was very different than might have caught the attention and the eye of those that were coming over from other lands. And in many cases, they were running, and I've put some time into trying to understand your history and what happened, and I'm upset for you. I mean, that's not right, and so my heart goes out to you for that, for not having some of the opportunities that our people had, to be with nature and reflect and manage it and take care of it and understand what different forms of life needed, and being able to be stewards for that is a part of our essence. It's been a part of us for thousands of years. So we know the world's asking for us to bring that forward, and many of us are working on figuring out ways to do that are aligned with our protocols. So something very important is understanding the way that we were with the horse and the way that I believe we will be again. So, many native nations, horses were babysitters too. I mean, by the time the child could be put on that back of that creature, right? That was our babysitter. We went around and they took care of us and they were with us. We took care of them. We made sure, as my mom said, when we were moving camp, one of the first things we looked for, we needed good water and good space and land for the horses. And right up there with the health of your family, the health of our family, right? Our relatives, our horses. We looked for specific geographical areas where they could rest and be safe. They pay attention to everything. Part of the difficulty with modern breeding, right? We're making decisions for these horses about their bodies, about who they're going to love. I mean, maybe it's astounding to you that I'm saying this is an issue, but we're so astounded that someone would do it. That's how different our cultures were. We never dreamed to choose their mates. I don't know what could be more personal than that. So they're their own nation. They have their own decision-making power, and they know what they need, right? And they know their role. Every creature, every life form has a role, an important mission, so to speak, for the health of the world, right? We all have a place. Nobody can take that from us, right? Every life form has a place, and they inherently know what they need to do. And so when mankind gets in the way and changes up the story and changes up the environment, we're doing a great disservice to all life, and we're hurting ourselves. That was something difficult for us. It's almost a suicidal culture. How do you dirty the air when you need it to breathe? How do you dirty the water when you need it to survive? It's a thinking we didn't understand, and we still have trouble today, I'll be honest. So with the horse, yes, because of its special design, right, a special biological and spiritual and psychological design, you can play its nature against it and get it to do what you want. But when you do that, you close the door to its power and its medicine. Maybe it makes you feel safe and it makes you feel like a good horseman or woman, but I look at it and I feel, I guess I feel some pain and sadness about that. So what I would love to see is people that have a different understanding about the horse, and many of you do, I'm sure. People that know its beauty and its strength, you know, could come together and create spaces where it people can go into their world. And I know that's hard. I'm married to a lawyer, and you're going to get sued, and someone's going to get hurt. I know, but I'm just putting it out there because with the right minds together, anything is possible. You know, it's a really wonderful thing for people to learn how to become aware of themselves and how to be respectful and act appropriately around life. And so teaching people how to approach the horse, how to work with the horse, that's beautiful in and of itself. And it's not just about not getting kicked. There's a lot more to that system and that way of being. So again, I don't know what's going to come out of this webinar, but it would really be beautiful, I think, if some of these minds come together and try to incorporate the best of many horse cultures, right? And figure out a way to be a model for the world, right? Right now, if people are worried, right, there's no use for the horse, but if you look at the way they used it before, it's atrocious. Really, to me, I guess I don't have words for it. It's how you would take a sacred creature and make it pull your train car, make it work like that, you know, change its body so it could do more for you like that. That's foreign to us. We didn't have that. Wasn't for us to decide. Wasn't for us to change its body, its biology, its mind. We don't have that concept. Some people have asked me if I was to develop a program, right, of people working with horses. They've asked me what are some of the elements I think would be most important. And one of the elements I think is absolutely critical is to have a fully functioning herd dynamic available for people, meaning a stallion and his mares, his family, not gelding him so he doesn't, so he's not what he is, not pulling him in and out. You know, there are ways you can do it, and allowing him his space with his family, and allowing people to, right, hand him a notebook, a pen and a notebook. Have him sit there for a few hours and watch everything. How does that stallion behave with his mares? How does that mare behave with her foal? All of those. We're talking about appropriate roles for people, right? Today we don't have them. If you look at the youth today, they're all over the place. Why? Because that's how little structure society provides for them. We got to do better. We've got to do better. And men need to be able to see from strong males what their role is. What does it look like when you're fully committed to your mate? What does it look like when you're fully committed to protecting the sacred? And these horses, when given, when allowed to be and what they are, the way they are, they exude it. There's no confusion, none. Women need to know, what does it look like when you love your baby so much, your little one so much, and you know they're a complete extension of you? In the herd, right, the mother's place even extends to that offspring, right? She gives them everything, and she even extends that, and they share her place in the herd. right? To watch those little colts, those males, follow their daddy, you know, and copy everything he does. It's one of the most beautiful things to observe. And so I think that that is such a powerful part, and should be a powerful part of any real equine program, right? People do not know their roles anymore, and they suffer, right? They suffer for it. So that's one of the ways we can bring that back to them. And then you have a discussion about it. What did you observe? What is like this? What's it like to love unconditionally? What is that like? How many of you have experienced that? That's medicine. That's magic, right? That's what happens when you go into the world with the horse, right? They decide whether or not you're part of their herd. And once you are, it's unconditional, right? And through that, anything can happen, right? On all levels. So I want to just put that forward as something to consider. So I understand, right, today everything is managed, including people, right? So many of the equine programs and philosophies are an extension of what we do to our own selves. But there is another way. And maybe you haven't experienced it, and your ancestors haven't in a long time, but there's another way. And that way, and people's ideas about what that way might be like, I mean, you guys know we had it, and so it still fascinates, right? Even through all those strange books that are written about us, and even well-intended, right? But they're through a framework that's not ours. So it's going to be a miss, right? It's not even the smartest, best-intentioned person's going to miss it if they haven't experienced it for their own selves. And so even for me, if I went and I tried to write about your history, I'm going to get so much wrong. So I'm not going to bother. I promise I won't do that. But you know, it is important for us to begin to tell what it was like, and bring some of that forward, because the world's suffering right now, right? The Lakota and other indigenous peoples have been silenced, and life is dying. So it just can't happen anymore. And a beautiful thing that we can bring forward is what a relationship with the horse nation can be like. And it's not a quick fix. You can't do it in an hour on a Sunday, right? It doesn't work like that. So what does that mean? It means if you really want to experience it, you're going to have to make a space in your life for it. Guess what? You're going to feel a lot better, right? Remember, what works for Sundwakan works for mankind, right? We go together. So I know that the world teaches us often to be afraid of change, but sometimes change can be the biggest blessing. And for those of you that work really closely with the horse, your love for that creature just may stimulate an impetus for change. It's not a bad thing. Our kids need more from us. If we look around, right, people of our age group, it's our responsibility to provide a good path forward for them. And for those of you who work with horses, that's a way we can do that, right? We can provide experience for them to be with that creature. And the more you can give the horse what it needs to be well, not what you feel most comfortable with, what they actually need to be well, which is what is consistent with their nature, the more you're going to be able to help those kids, right? Because they're going to feel something when they walk into that space, and that's what they're missing. So I would just encourage you to broaden your understanding of what's possible. And for those of you who have the passion around it and the will for it, work on creating a space where that can happen, right? And then, of course, you have to work on how to bring the people to that space. So I just want to thank you, Sylvain, and the rest of you that are joining us today for the opportunity to share some of our understanding about Sundwakan, the horse nation, and I just want to end by saying that the Lakota always stand with the horse. It's been that way for us since time immemorial. If you read about many of our accounts, that's usually how the elders say it. We've been here since time immemorial. We've been with Sundwakan since time immemorial. So it's time immemorial. So I just want to say that, and I want to say that we will always stand with the Horse Nation. And we are committed to bringing back those ways and that knowledge about how to truly have a respectful relationship, not just with Sundwakan, but with all life forms. And in that, we would be able to attain, wichozani, health, a full level of health and well-being on all fronts. So I want to thank you for joining me today in our sacred territory, and it's the right place to speak about Sundwakan. I just didn't feel comfortable doing it in a room or I need to be out here with these elements to project that feeling in an appropriate way. So thank you for your time. Wopila.